What you're about to see is the day Zionist immigrants first landed in Palestine, stepping onto a land that had been home to Palestinians for centuries. Their arrival marked the start of settlements, land acquisitions, and a plan that would change the region forever, the Zionist movement, planning a homeland. The story begins in the late 19th century. The Zionist movement, officially founded in 1897 by Theodor Herzl, emerged as a response to persecution and violent pogroms in Europe, particularly in Russia and Eastern Europe. Jews were facing discrimination, expulsions, and widespread violence. Herzl and other leaders argued that the only solution was a homeland, a state where Jews could live safely and govern themselves. Palestine, then part of the Ottoman Empire, was chosen because of its historical and religious significance. For Zionists, it was the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people. But it was already home to millions of Palestinians who had cultivated the land, built villages, farmed, and lived there for generations. The movement was not merely about migration or seeking safety. It was a political project, focused on buying land, establishing settlements, and creating institutions that would eventually displace Palestinians. This context is critical. It shows that the arrival of Zionist settlers was deliberate, organized, and transformative, with consequences that would echo for decades. Early Zionist immigration, first and second Aliyah. The first major wave of Zionist settlers, known as the First Aliyah, 1882 to 1903, brought around 25,000 to 35,000 Jews to Palestine. Most arrived by ship, landing in Jaffa, the main port at the time. They were mostly from Eastern Europe and Yemen, motivated by both persecution and the ideological vision of creating a homeland. These settlers purchased land, often from absentee Ottoman landlords, and established small agricultural communities. Palestinian farmers, who had lived on and cultivated the land for centuries, were often displaced or marginalized as settlements grew. The second Aliyah, 1904 to 1914, added another 35,000 immigrants, largely from Russia. Many were ideologically motivated, determined to build a homeland through agriculture, kibbutzim, and organized communities. During these decades, Palestinian villages and towns began to feel the effects. Land was being purchased or taken over, and the presence of organized settlements created friction and conflict, laying the groundwork for decades of struggle. British Mandate and the Balfour Declaration. World War I changed the political landscape. The British defeated the Ottoman Empire and took control of Palestine. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration was issued, in which Britain stated its support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. While celebrated by Zionists, this declaration came at the expense of Palestinians. Britain did not consult the local population, effectively promising land that had been cultivated and lived on for generations. The declaration provided Zionists with international legitimacy, encouraging more settlers to arrive and more land to be acquired. During the 1920s, Jewish immigration increased significantly, and settlements expanded. Palestinian communities resisted, but the political and military support behind Zionist settlements created an imbalance of power. This period marked the beginning of organized land acquisition, backed by international forces, which would accelerate the displacement of Palestinians. Major immigration waves and rising tensions. The decades following the British Mandate saw even larger waves of Jewish immigration. The third Aliyah, 1919 to 1923, brought around 40,000 immigrants, many inspired by the Balfour Declaration and fleeing post-World War I instability. The fourth Aliyah, 1924 to 1928, added approximately 80,000 Jews, mostly from Poland and Hungary, escaping economic hardship and anti-Semitism. The fifth Aliyah, 1929 to 1939, was the largest, with roughly 250,000 Jews arriving, many fleeing Nazi Germany. These waves created rapid demographic and political shifts. Settlements expanded, land ownership changed, and the Palestinian population began to experience widespread displacement and growing tensions. Villages were depopulated, farmland was bought or seized, and Palestinian families faced economic, social, and cultural disruption. This is the period when the organized Zionist presence transitioned from immigration to settlement and state building, laying the foundation for what would become Israel. The story is not just about numbers. It's about the impact on the Palestinian people and their homeland, a story of loss and resistance that continues today. UN Partition, and the Declaration of Israel. The final stage of this transformation came after World War II. The United Nations proposed a partition plan on November 29, 1947, dividing Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. While Jewish leaders accepted the plan, Palestinians and surrounding Arab nations rejected it, seeing it as unjust and illegitimate. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared, formalizing the Zionist vision. This declaration marked the political takeover of Palestine, resulting in the Nakba, or catastrophe, in which hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced, forced to flee their homes, and became refugees. Villages were destroyed, communities erased, and centuries of Palestinian life were dramatically altered. It is crucial to remember that by 1948, the process of Zionist settlement and displacement had already been ongoing for more than half a century. The day Palestine was taken was not a single day of arrival, but a series of organized actions, immigration waves, and political maneuvers that culminated in formal statehood. This was the day the Zionists arrived in Palestine, a moment that reshaped the land and its people. Follow Days Gone By to remember history, share the truth, and stand with Palestine.